Shalom, Ushio. It's the morning, so my voice is lower, and I think I've killed everything on the thing so the voice will not distort on the computer. So I wanted to, I've been working on a code table on Methuselah for a while, and just doing the research basically on that. And it was a very interesting anomaly that came up. But first we're going to go through the scripture verses. And I want to talk about appointed times besides the Moeds, because it seems that Jehovah's been revealing that he has a lot of appointed times for all kinds of stuff. And I wanted to put this out here, and also when the trumpet blows, because there's also trumpets that are blown when danger is supposed to be coming, and a watchman or intercessor sees a sword coming but does not blow the trumpet, and the people are not warned, and the sword comes and takes a person from them, and he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood, he said, I will require from the watchman's hand. Now as for you, son of man, I have appointed you as a watchman for the house of Israel. So you will hear a message from my mouth and give them warning from me. So I wanted to go through and connect the scriptures according to Noah's flood in that timeline, and that is an appointed time on his calendar. So we'll go through that, and a trumpet is sounded for warning. So listen up. Because we're in some amazing times right now. Okay, so Daniel 8:19, we're going to talk about all the appointed times that are besides the Moeds. And he said, behold, I'm going to let you know what will occur at the final period of the indignation, for it pertains to the appointed time of the end. So we know that there's an end and an appointed time for that end. And I wanted you to see the door shut. And what other passages in scriptures that you can find that talks about the door being shut, okay, which also would be the parable of the 10 virgins, right? The door shuts. So Psalm 29, Jehovah sat enthroned at the flood, yea, Jehovah sitteth as a king forever. Jehovah will give strength unto his people, and Jehovah will bless his people with shalom, peace. Nothing missing and nothing broken. Isaiah 54, in an outburst of anger, I hid my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting love and kindness I will have compassion on you, says Jehovah, your Redeemer. So that language is very specific with Ruth, our kinsman redeemer. Okay? For this is like the days of Noah to me, when I swore that the waters of Noah would not flood the earth again. So I have sworn that I will not be angry with you, nor will I rebuke you. For the mountains may be removed, and the hills may shake. Very interesting language about the shaking, which you can tie that into the rest, some of the other prophets. But my loving kindness will not be removed from you, and my covenant of peace will not be shaken, says Jehovah, who has compassion on you. And he says, I will not hide my face from them any longer, for I have poured out of my spirit on the house of Israel, declares Jehovah. Okay? Lift up your eyes and look around. And remember, think about that scripture. Look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. All of them gather together, they come to you. As I live, declares Jehovah, you will surely put on all of them as jewels and bind them on as a bride. So I just thought that was a very interesting scripture. Look up, lift up your eyes, for your redemption, your kinsman redeemer draweth nigh. Now this is from Jeff Benner, and this is a mechanical translation of Genesis without explained it as in the original Hebrew. It's kind of bumping. You're traveling along in a wagon and you're going over bumps, and you have to really ponder and think about stuff. But the translators, what they did is they paved it, and you can run over at 90 miles an hour and not have to think for yourself or work things out or understand where things are coming from. So I did this, and I thought this was significant. I'm just going to pause it, and you can, and there's a link in the description box. You can go through and read this yourself. But it talks about And Noah and his sons and his woman and the women of his sons with him came to the vessel from the face of the waters of the flood. I mean, it's worded just as this Hebrew would state. So I thought that was very helpful because I did notice something. In the year 600th year to the life of Noah, in the second new moon, in the 17th day to the new moon, in this day all the springs of the deep sea were cleaved open abundantly, and the chimneys of the skies had been opened. Well, I did a video about towards the night before, and since the prophets, it talks about chimneys. And I thought that was really interesting because I did not know that this is what the original word was. Or it could be translated like that. And I'm sure there's multiple translations, but that's just a connection for me. In the second new moon of this to the 17th day. So when you look at Jubilees here, and he commanded Noah to make an ark, that he might save himself from the waters of the flood. And Noah made the ark in all respects as he commanded him. In the 27th Jubilee of years, in the 5th week. In the 5th year, on the new moon of the 1st month, and he entered in the 6th year thereof, in the 2nd month, on the new moon of the 2nd month, till the 16th, he entered, and all that we brought to him into the ark, and that would be Jehovah closed it from without on the 17th evening, and Jehovah opened 7 floodgates of heaven, and the mouths of the fountains of the great deep, 7 mouths in number, and the floodgates began to pour down water from the heaven, 40 days and 40 nights. So he went in on the 1st day of the new moon of the 2nd month to the 16th, and then Jehovah closed it on the 17th evening. So I thought that was extremely interesting, and it just gives a connection between those two. Because, I mean, you can go through and go circular reasoning all the time with different translations, but if you try to go back to the original, it starts making a little bit more sense. And also, so I thought this was neat. And the bone of this day, Noah, Shem, Ham, Japhet, and the sons of Noah, and the women of Noah, the woman of Noah, and the 3 women of his sons with them came to the vessel. So it does make you think. It's not as smooth as it is in the English scriptures. And then, of course, idiom for noon is bone of this day. And we'll go through, and also Jasher. People are like, oh, we can't read that. I mean, down in the Dead Sea Scrolls and different things, it gives an interesting timeline, and it talks about that and how it's violently shaken up. Earth was broken up, and it shakes violently. Fountains, the foundations of the world raged. The sun was darkened. The whole earth shook or began to shake. Again, that's the same language in the prophet Habakkuk, and look through that. And it sounds like a thunder roared. It sounds like in Breshit at the mountain. Okay? And at the end of 7 days, in the 600th year of Noah's life, the waters of the flood were come upon the earth. So, and the Lord shut them in. So again, it agrees. The text in Jubilees also, Jehovah shut them in. But I like Jubilees because it definitely talks about gives a little bit more detail. Now, on the Enoch calendar, this 31st is the 17th day of the 2nd month. And the reason why I put that on here, people, I know freak out. Oh, no, don't do that. As an intercessor, I'm looking ahead to see, and this may not be his calendar that he's using, but it's a good tool to see what's coming up, especially if you're interceding and praying for people that aren't awake yet. So for you, to get angry at someone for trying to do that, that's totally inappropriate. Maybe you should intercede and pray for people and look ahead for yourself and the people called to reach. Warn them about it so that their blood's not required at your hands. So again, that's just on the Enoch calendar. Whether that falls with that, I don't know. But we're looking at events, not necessarily days, except when this starts, it's going to hit fast and you better be ready. So I thought this was a very significant verse. And Daniel 10:1-14, in the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed to him. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, people have connected Donald Trump to not only Cyrus, but Yehu, that helped bring down Jezebel. And Jonathan Cahn's book about that is really profound. So we have so many different layers and different shadows of things that are coming and things that have happened, because there's nothing new under the sun. So I wanted to kind of connect this with Ishmael, okay? Because in Islam, it's exact opposite of what it is in Christianity, about who the anti-Messiah, whoever that is, okay? So they speak falsehood to one another with flattering lips, and with a double heart they speak. And this is all the cross-references just to this scripture. They devise injustices, saying, we are ready with a well-conceived plot, for the inward thought and the heart of man are deep. And we just came through this where Gedaliah was assassinated. In the 7th month, Ishmael, the son of Netaniah and the son of Elishama of the royal family, and one of the chief officers of the king, along with 10 men, came to Mizpah, and Gedaliah, the son of Achim, or Acham, while they were eating bread together, and he killed them and put to death the one whom the king of Babylon had appointed over the land. There's a plot, because it says right here, I'll let you read that scripture. As for both kings, their hearts will be intent on evil, and they will speak lies to each other at the same table, but it will not succeed, for the end is still to come at the appointed time. No matter what they do to stop it, or their deceitful shenanigans behind the scenes, Jehovah still reigns. At an appointed time the end will come, and they can't stop it. And I ran across this because I don't think anybody has heard this. I did not know this. Cyrus the Great Day, or Cyrus Day, is on the 29th of October, and the 7th of Aban is the anniversary of the entrance of Cyrus the Two into Babylon. So it's celebrated in the Iranian communities, in the United States and the UK. And it was celebrated in the city of Cambridge in 2009 and 2010. And then on October 28, 2016, thousands of youths chanted, Cyrus is our father, Iran is our country. Freedom of thought cannot be accomplished with beards. Now, so they put them in suits instead. And so I just let that sink into you about who they think Cyrus is. They have their Cyrus, and, makes you wonder, especially this coming week, somebody's getting ready to be inaugurated in Chicago. So, again, not specific dates, but just concepts of events that keep happening. Also, someone had did this, and I wondered about this. I thought this was interesting, connecting this to Iran, that President Rouhani, his name backwards is in an hour. So we're also going to talk about the birth. Women are at a time. Everybody that is born at this time that belong to him, or for such a time as this. 2 Kings 4:17, but the woman conceived and gave birth to a son at the appointed time, that Elisha had said unto her, according to the time of life. Genesis 21:2. So Sarah conceived and bore a son to Abraham in his own age at the appointed time, of which Jehovah had spoken to him. Abraham called his name, the name of his son, who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. Ecclesiastes. There's an appointed time for everything, and there is a time for every event under heaven. A time to give birth and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. Job 14:5. Since his days are determined, the number of his months is with you, and his limits you have set, so he cannot pass. Okay? Up until the day Noah entered the ark. And I thought this was interesting because this Son of Man is language that's very specific throughout Scripture. And so I just connected the pieces with where that was. And I also, we'll go through that. But of the day and the hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, but the Father alone. Then he goes, but just as the days of Noah, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. For just as they were eating and drinking before the flood, and they were taking wives, and they were not taking husbands, and they were taking husbands, until the day that Noah entered the ark, which was, he entered the ark, according to Jubilees, the first day of the new moon in the second month. So this will be at the coming of the Son of Man. They did not perceive until the flood came and took them all away. Wake up, therefore. But if you had known, if this house owner had known in what watch the robber would come, he would have been awake and would not have allowed his house to be broken into. Because of this, be also ready, because of at the hour in which you're not expecting, the Son of Man will come, and being a faithful and wise steward. So, this language, there will be weeping and gnashing. Again, what does that remind you of? So here we go, Son of Man. This is twice. It talks, well, actually 3 times. Wake up, Son of Man. The coming of the Son of Man. So he came near to where I was standing, and when he came, I was frightened and fell on my face, and he said to me, Son of Man, understand that the vision pertains to the time of the end. Luke. So keep watch at all times and pray that you may have the strength to escape all that is about to happen and to stand before the Son of Man. And again, this is very much connected to the days of Noah. Okay? Matthew. For the Son of Man will come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will repay each one according to what he has done. So you look up glory. It's not some abstract thing. It's actually like armaments, like an army. That's what glory means. So he's talking about he's coming with his armies. Be on guard and stay alert, for you do not know when the appointed time will come. Watch yourselves, or your hearts will be weighed down by dispensation, drunkenness, and the worries of life. And that day will spring upon you suddenly like a snare. That sounds like the flood, the timeline of the flood, when the springs were broken up and open. Jeremiah. They do not say in the heart, let us now fear Jehovah our Elohim, who gives rain in its season, both autumn and rain and spring rain, who keeps for us the appointed weeks of harvest. Deuteronomy. And we're talking about harvesting, but this is man's hearts too. So his harvest is at the end of the age that he talks about in Scripture. Be patient then, brothers, until Lord's coming. See how the farmer anticipates the precious fruit of the soil as he patiently awaits for the fall and spring rains, which would be during the winter or the rainy season. Okay. You too be patient and strengthen your hearts, because Yeshua's coming is near. So if you do lack any spiritual gift, as you eagerly await the revelation, the revealing of our Yeshua Messiah, he will sustain you to the end so that you will be blameless on the day. It will be just like on the day of the Son of Man is revealed. Look at that language again. The creation waits in eager expectation for the revelation of the sons of Elohim. So here's the little bit more in depth of what this may be talking about. So we're going to go through. Not only so, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit grown inwardly, as we wait eagerly for the adoptions as sons, the redemption of our bodies. Okay, a little bit more revealing here of what he's talking about. And to await his Son from heaven, whom he raised from the dead, Yeshua, our deliverer from the coming wrath. Okay, so also Messiah was offered once to bear the sins of many, and he will appear a second time, not to bear sin, but to bring salvation to those who eagerly await him. So we're waiting right now. Okay. I want to also give a Heshvan. It's called the month of Bull, a name that stems from the word flood. We are taught that it is reserved for the time of Mashiach, who will inaugurate the third temple in Heshvan. He then revealed the sign of his covenant with the world, the rainbow. This is very interesting. Inaugurate the third temple in Heshvan. Okay, when ready to happen ago. I'm not talking about, again, there's a counterpart to this. So I just thought that that was very interesting because there's an inauguration getting ready to happen. So it seems like there's, we're in that battle time right now and something ready to go down. Also, research I had done previous. One other interesting thought I thought about was reading about the flood and the connections to 10/31/17, Halloween and the Day of the Dead. Some think that the flood on the second month of the 17th day, it was on 10/31 in ancient days. Again, he has his calendar. And again, Chicago and oh no. So every civilization has information about the flood that happened. I'll pause this and you can read it and how they celebrated the Day of the Dead. And this author was out his observance that the emphasis on demonic images, ghost monsters, and gruesome things in general might also appeal to the wicked spirits from whom beginning of the flood meant the death of their hybrid children. So originally, what if that was the day of the flood in the ancient civilization? That's pretty interesting. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Hebrews 11:7. And without faith, Umuna, it is impossible to please Elohim, because anyone who approaches him must believe that he exists, and he rewards those who earnestly seek him. By faith, or Umuna, Noah, when warned about these things in godly fear, built an ark to save his family. By faith, Umuna, he condemned the world and became heir of righteousness that comes by faith. So by faith, Umuna, Abraham, when called to go out to a place he would later receive his inheritance, obeyed and went without knowing where he was going. And again, this is the scripture in Genesis. And Noah did it according to all that Jehovah had commanded him, so he did. So here are some of the references. You can look up Methuselah. Been working on a Hezekiah table. I'll probably hopefully get that done soon. Origins of Halloween and Noah's flood. Okay. So Noah and his family and all the animals entered the ark 7 days before it starts raining, according to this. But then, it looks like it was actually before that. So here is the scripture. And then you have the door shutting and being on the outside. Now this is from Aish. The bitter month, on when darkness reigns, yet growth begins a deep beneath the surface. And it means better. And I'll link this so you can go through that. Talking about a month that is bereft of any festive days. But what if it's an appointed time on Jehovah's calendar? That's a very significant thought. Drying up. And talks about ancient times when the temple, Bull as the month when King Solomon completed the construction of the first temple. Though the dedication did not take place until a year later. Okay? 2 key events. This is extremely important. So if we search further, we find 2 other events that occurred in the month of Heshvan. The first was the flood in the times of Noah. And the second one was the death of Jacob's wife Rachel, as well as the birth of Benjamin, son of my right hand, which occurred on the 11th of Heshvan. It was precisely the same day as Methuselah's death, the very day that flood had originally been slated to begin. As there are no coincidences in Torah, we must ask, what is the connection between these 2 events? And what do they reveal about the essence of the month of Heshvan? So, in thinking about what the matriarch Rachel and her son Benjamin stand for, we can see that Rachel represents the Jewish people in exile, and Benjamin represents the completed state of Jewish people in the land of Israel. Rachel spent her entire life outside of Israel and passed away just as Jacob and his family entered the set-apart land, the Holy Land. As our sages tell us, her spirit accompanied the Jewish people as they went into Babylonian exile, and it is she who cries for her children in exile until the redemption comes. And that's the dream I had of Rachel weeping for her children. You can see that on one of them, on my videos. In contrast, Benjamin is the last son of Jacob, of the 12 tribes of Israel, whose birth marks the completion of the people of Israel. He is also the only son of Jacob that is born in Israel, and thus represents the Jewish people's perfected state in the land of Israel, or Israel's perfected state in the land of Israel. This is further underscored, as Ramchal explains, by the fact that Saul, the king of the Jewish people, came from the tribe of Benjamin. Furthermore, the miracle of Purim, which precedes the return of Jews to Israel and the building of the second temple, was brought about through the vehicle of Mordecai and Esther, who came from the tribe of Benjamin. You can see the death of Rachel is the birth of Benjamin. This would correspond to the idea that exile itself is that which births redemption. The descent into darkness creates the potential for future light. And the very passing of Methuselah opened the curtain for Noah to assume leadership of the next generation. The death of a previous order gave rise to a new potential for growth. So I wanted to let that sink in for a minute. And man of the dart, and his death brought forth something else. So Heshvan is a time that is bitter. So there seems to be no opportunities for growth and spiritual connection. It is a time of deterioration as the leaves wither and the world enters a state of deep hibernation. So when the rains begin, in this moment when Rachel passes on, when all seems bleak, when the darkness of exile closes in, it is at this moment of the birth of Benjamin, the seed of Israel's perfected state, which is sown in that very darkness. The message, despite the darkness, and even because of the darkness, there is future growth that awaits us. So, in Peter, and it talks about the flood, preserving the 8th man, and it also talks about their day feasts, which is very, very, very interesting. So I highly recommend reading that. And then the next scripture, the flood. So in the resurrection. So this is connected to that. So I wanted to at least bring that up. Also, I wanted to show this concept about the events and the events that happen in Las Vegas. See, there's nothing new under the sun, and I had talked about this. The Harvest Festival attack in Vegas with music reminds me an article about these camps. And there's been a lot in the Israeli news about the camps in Poland and different things going on. And this is in German, and I am not going to attempt to pronounce this because I can't speak German, not even the slightest bit. But this word in German means harvest festival. And this is during the same time frame that we're in right now. It began at dawn on November 3rd, 1943. And what that was a code word to start to kill all the remaining Jews in the Lublin district in Poland in the fall of 1943. So there was resistance that had happened. And so they were trying to stamp it out. And so to prevent this, the SS decided to kill most of the remaining Jews who were employed in forced labor projects and were concentrated in these camps right here. So it began at dawn on November 3rd, 1943. And music was played through the loudspeakers to drown out the noise of the mass shooting. And the shootings took 2 days, and 42,000 Jews were killed during the Harvest Festival. There is nothing new under the sun. Everything that was will be again. And we all know what's coming up on November 3rd, 1943, and what they're planning. So do you understand that they're original? The same things are repeating over and over and over again. So of course, that made a significant impact. Again, that just happened, and history keeps repeating. So I wanted to show you the table I've been working on. So the access term was Methuselah. It's at a skip of 448, Exodus 27:21, and Exodus 32:23. So Methuselah comes up several times, quite a bit actually, in the codes. Even though it's only one time in the plain text, from what I can tell in the Torah. So here's the scripture verses. Is the mem. So we'll go up here. I'll show that. Okay, letter. And that comes up in. Then shall you kill the ram and take of its blood and put it on the tip of the right ear of Aaron and upon the tip of the right ear. Okay, here we go. It ends in, the rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than a half a shekel, and they give an offering to Jehovah. So, talking about the temple there, which I thought that was extremely interesting. So, when I did the search for Methuselah, it came up a lot of times, but I wanted to connect it to the YHVH article for Benjamin. Now, Benjamin with Methuselah came up only one time, and it's in this table. So Methuselah is the access term. The secondary term was Benjamin. But the anomaly that came up, this is supposed to be Benjamin, but the computer translated it Tarshish, or aquamarine, barrel. And so I thought that was extremely interesting, and what I did, I wanted to show you. Here is some of the other ones that I did. Get rid of these to look for. So this is Benjamin, and I'll show you where it comes up because the computer did that. So I'm like, that's very significant. And of course it won't come up now. That's funny. But that's how you spell Benjamin. And it came up Tarshish. So you have Rachel, which is you, or lamb, branch, and these are the key codes that I entered in and see what feeling, core, heart, center. You have childbirth, and I did 10:10 because that would be the 10th day, or the 10th month, October, on the 10th day, Heshvan, just to see what happened, and it came up Benjamin. Ion, so in the pictograph I have two eyes to perceive what's this saying. So we have Rachel. Very interesting, Eve comes up. You have the flood, deluge. flood, inundation, mysterious, weeping, Rachel weeping. We have trustfulness, faith, loyal, trust, nurtured, confidence. He who has begun a good work will complete it. We have this confidence. And very interesting, appointed goes right across Methuselah. So this is an appointed time that he's talking about. We have our maidservants. We have lion here in the blue diagonally. And we have melted. Like the elements will melt away. We have elements. One of the words that came up right across in here. I didn't do that, but okay, let's see. See if that'll come up now. Nope, it won't let me do it now. But that's what it was. So could part of Benjamin went to Tarshish? I have no idea. But that's the way it came up. And you can look at the scriptures and find out the beryl stones and the aquamarine, and maybe it has to do with the breastplate. I don't know. But I thought that was extremely interesting that Benjamin was right there with Methuselah, and this is the only time it came up in this in the Torah. So I hope that this blesses, and be ready, keep thinking, and keep watching, because things aren't happening again the way people think they're going to. So keep watching for him. He was enthroned at the flood. He's not going to forget. He has compassion on his people. And shalom.